Good evening. This is Rob Bell, and you're watching Getting the Record Straight. This is our Black Rock and Soul edition. This is when we talk with artists and talk about music and artistic things that are going on, not only in Philly, but really internationally. With me this evening is really one of the treasures and giants in the music scene in Philadelphia. He has been for years, and I'm really proud and blessed to have him this evening, brother Dexter Wansel. Dexter, thanks so much for being able to join me this evening. Appreciate it.
Thanks for inviting me, Robert.
Pleasure's mine. Dexter, for those of you who don't know, is an arranger, musician, composer, conductor, synthesist. I don't know if that captures everything, but that's what I read. He's probably best known, I guess, for his great album, breakthrough album, Life on Mars. And of course, he did other albums, a lot of other work with Philly International, including producing and writing for the Jones Girls. So yeah, before we got started, Dexter, I was asking you about actually where you went to high school. You're from Philly, and you said Roxborough, and I was wondering, is that where you got your initial music training?
No, not really.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I really started with, playing in orchestras, from Roxborough and playing the cello really heavily. But no, I really started at the age of 8, 9. I was the backstage errand boy at the Uptown Theater.
Uh-huh.
The music director there was named Doc Bagby. And Doc used to show me chords and stuff on the organ. I was the little errand boy back there for my Uncle Georgie Woods. And I did that from the age of 8, from 58, 59 to like 63, 64. And by then I was kind of into music, by junior high school, I was going to Settlement, and I was playing flute and cello. Starting to learn some theory, harmony, and composition by the time I was 13 and 14.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I got into high school, I started playing in the Roxborough Orchestra, and the music teacher that I had earlier in junior high school, she kept me playing with her in different orchestras around Philadelphia and New Jersey. Like I would go and sit in with the Cherry Hill Symphony as a cello player as a kid, and I wound up in the All-City Orchestra, All-City High School Orchestra, Philadelphia All-City High School Orchestra, and stuff like that, and so went to Settlement, started taking, by the time I was 14 and 15, I was already taking master classes at Curtis Institute in Philadelphia. And I was pursuing a more or less classical road as far as music was concerned.
Mm-hmm. So how did you get connected with Philadelphia International?
Well, what happened was something happened, and the day I turned 17, I was on a train to Fort Bragg, North Carolina I had to join the Army. And when I got the Army, after a little, like 3.5 years, I finally got honorably discharged. And but while I was in the Army, the last months I was playing at USO clubs in Texas, and so when I got out, I had picked up the piano at my last year of high school, or before I went into the Army, and so I went to Sigma Sound to audition. This was like in 71, 72. And to see if I could, get into the music, playing at Sigma. I'd heard about it. Stanley had told me about it. And Stanley Clark and I had our first little bands together in high school, before I went to the Army. And so I went to Sigma and auditioned for some sessions. And I got on a couple of sessions, uncredited, And then one day while I was sitting there waiting to see if anyone would use me, one of the engineers came down and asked me if I knew anything about a Putney synthesizer. This was like 72. And I said, sure, which I didn't, but I figured it out. They took me up. I figured it out, put some pegs in there, turned some of the knobs. Next thing I knew, I had a good sine wave, and they started hiring me there to, program the Putney for different producers, which I did. And one day, Roland and Carl Chambers, who were members of MFSB, heard me with the synthesizer and the keyboard playing the piano and asked me if I wanted to join their group, Yellow Sunshine. And I did. And we did an album at Philly International Records called Yellow Sunshine. And that's how I got into Philly International Records for the most part. That was the initial step forward, And then the next thing I knew, I had met some of the Bunny Sigler. And Bunny Sigler hired me to play piano with his group Instant Funk. And we started touring with Bunny. And then Bunny got a couple of productions while we were on the road for 6 months, where he had to do Carl Carlton and Johnny. I can't think. I Can See Clearly Now. The guy that sang I Can See. And somebody was supposed to write some horn arrangements for him, but that fell through. And he asked me if I knew anything about writing horn arrangements. And I said, sure, I can do it. So, and that's actually how I started arranging. But that theory in harmony and composition studies, helped me, because I already knew, instrumentation, and I knew their ranges and everything like that. And I've been listening to music all my life, and I'd been watching Doc Bagby's band. So when I started writing horn arrangements, I tried to sound like Doc Bagby's band, and it worked out, and so from there, I like I said, I did that tour with Bunny Sigler, and me and T Life started a company called Mills and Mills, where we were producing some artists. And then Don Ronaldo asked me to start playing live keyboards with MFSB. Don Ronaldo was the contractor and head of the MFSB orchestra, and they had a lot of live concerts and needed a keyboard player for, Baker Harrison Young and Lenny Pakula, and a number of people had left MFSB at that point. So I joined and started playing live keyboards with MFSB, and it all kind of merged together, because Don Ronaldo asked me if I would write a song for MFSB, and I said, sure, and so he spoke to Kenny, and Kenny said, oh yeah, I know Dexter. He's in Yellow Sunshine. Yeah, sure. Let him do it, So I wrote Morning Tears. I orchestrated and conducted Morning Tears and When Your Love Is Gone for MFSB. And that went to the studio, and Gamble was there. And next thing I know, he had me writing arrangements for the Philadelphia Freedom stuff,
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I got signed in 75. I got signed, but I actually had gotten a song on Billy Paul before all of that, because Billy Paul heard a song I had written for him that had been passed on. But Billy, one day he met me and said, listen, I want to hear this song they were talking about that you wrote. And it was called Billy's Back Home. And he liked it.
I love that record. Yeah.
Oh, thanks, man.
I love that record.
It was Billy that really helped me kind of like solidify my relationship with Gamble and Huff and Philly International Records. And even he really liked my synthesizing, And so one of my very first projects, once I signed there as an in-house producer, arranger, writer, was to work on his album, Let 'Em In. And I did like half that album as a producer and arranger, and so and then when I finished my first album, Life on Mars, Billy asked me to go on the road with him, to be one of the acts on the road. And the next thing I knew, I was on the road with Billy Paul, and Gene Carn, touring. And so Billy was like one of my early mentors. Bobby Martin really liked what I was doing as a writer, as an arranger, and so did Tom. And they both would look at my charts for me. They'd walk in my little office and say, "What you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm trying to write this, but I don't know where I should put the horns, or maybe the strings should be left out here." And Tom would say, "No, keep them in there, keep them nice and sweet." And, and Bobby Martin would say, "Well, no, bring out the horns," because he was a horn guy. Most people don't know about Bobby Martin. Everybody knows.
I am so glad you mentioned him. I got his name down here in my notes because, I haven't read about him, but I saw his name on liner notes, and particularly one of the great albums to me, Billy Paul, I believe he arranged, The War of the Gods. And I love that album, and I've always wanted to know more about this guy, Bobby Martin.
Bobby Martin was the quintessential arranger. I always like to say it's Gamble, Huff, Bell, and Martin, because Bobby Martin wrote those incredible arrangements like on Me and Mrs. Jones and You'll Never Find, all that kind of stuff. And he was amazing, and he was one of my mentors, and he would, and what most people don't know, there's a record call on that John and Gene had something to do with on the OJs, their first big hit, Backstabbers. Tom Bell wrote the strings on Backstabbers, but Bobby Martin wrote the horns. Most people don't know that, and so Bobby Martin, even after he left PIR, he had a great career as a producer. On LTD, he did Back in Love.
Did he really?
Yeah, and on Let's Just Kiss and Say Goodbye on the Manhattans. That's Bobby Martin. Yeah, that's how good he was.
Yeah.
And but he didn't get the credit, that say like Tom and Kenny and Leon did out there, And he's one of my heroes, one of my mentors.
Can you talk a little bit? I wrote a book over 10 years ago, and I had the opportunity to interview for that a guy by the name of Paul Reiser, who was the arranger for at a Motown, one of the arrangers at Motown. And as a layperson, I think a lot of people who are not musicians but are fans like myself don't really know or understand or appreciate the significance and importance of arrangement and arrangers, and just
sometimes when it comes to like live performances, like we would, like by the time I started producing, it had gotten away from live recording, in that a live recording was when everyone was in the studio at once and did their parts. You had the rhythm section, you had the string and horns, you had the background vocalist, and you had the main vocalist, whoever it was, and they would record a song over and over until it felt right. You know what I'm saying? And Motown did that a lot because at the time, recording science was not as developed. Some of those boards were only 4 to 6 tracks that they were using in Motown early on in the early 60s. You know what I'm saying? 59, 60, 61, stuff like that. But once it got up to 16 tracks, then what happened was the switch from being live recordings to you go into the studio with the rhythm section first. Then you would do the lead vocal. then you would add like the background parts, then you would add the string and horns, and then you would mix. You see what I'm saying? And it became that, you know, that kind of mixing science, you know. But I did a few live recordings a couple of times, and they drove me crazy. So Motown and those early recordings that you hear from the 50s and the 60s and the big bands of the 40s, pretty amazing, you know.
But so your sound, Life on Mars, you know, you talk about Philly International, and you know, you think OJs, you think, you know, romantic, powerful ballads and that kind of thing. Of course, you know, up-tempo stuff also, but when you burst on the scene with that, I mean, it was like, where's that coming from? Did you have a vision of what you wanted that album to sound like? You know, did it just kind of happen, or did, you know, organically, or was it something that you saw well before it happened, or you heard it well before it happened?
My whole thing was, when I'll never forget that when I did those first early arrangements for Bunny and for MFSB, my whole thing was, well, you know, I quickly kind of saw that it had, as far as arranging was concerned, they had done it as like Tom Bell and the stuff he did with the Stylistics and Bobby Martin, stuff he did early on at PIR. They had done it as good as it was going to get, you know. So my thing was, and Billy Paul said, you know, you should work more with synthesizer. You might make you different, you know. And I kind of followed that, you know. And so when I would write arrangements, 9 times out of 10, I would include synthesis. So Life on Mars is a lot like that, where it's heavily synthesized, along with my string and horn arrangements. You know, I did some stuff like that with MFSB, you know. And I would really experiment a lot on my albums. You know, my albums were experimental, and I basically did those albums. I think they kept asking me to do albums because I was so busy in-house arranging and producing all the other artists. You know, don't forget that as an in-house producer, writer, arranger, I was working on every other artist there. You know what I'm saying? To help fill in the albums, what they would call album fillers at the time. You know, some of them would pop out and be singles, but when you're like up against a Gamble and Huff, they get the first singles off an album. End of story. You know. So if you wind up with the 3rd or 4th single, oh well, the album's basically done by then, you know. So but I didn't mind, you know. And the only things I didn't like about doing my albums was because I was so in love with producing and working with the recording artists there and outside that would reach into PIR to have me involved in stuff. Like Stevie Wonder had me involved with his Let's Get Serious album on Jermaine Jackson, where I wrote the arrangements for that album. And but what I didn't like was having to go on the road. You know, because when you're on the road, you ain't in the studio. So I was never really quite the stage performer per se, but I would go out and work and with Gene, and work with and open up for many different acts, and you know, because I had to. It was a part of promotion and marketing that they wanted me to do, you know. And I think that the fact that they allowed me to be so experimental with those albums was to keep me, you know, at home working on all their projects.
And it's
there was
really
one
funky
point,
too.
Huh?
I said it's really funky too, though. I mean, that undercurrent is, you know, it's pumping, man.
Yeah, that record, you know, like I was saying earlier, that Life on Mars song, me and T Life had created Mills and Mills, but we split up. But he signed Evelyn Bubbles to Mills and Mills, and and they got an album cut on her, and I cut the rhythm tracks for him, and even wrote a song for her. And that month we did both Instant Funk and me were the rhythm for both Shame and Life on Mars in the same month.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So yeah, so your son is in the business now, right?
Yeah.
Tell us about him. What
He's amazing. He's on a different path, a different road. That pop world, that's a different world altogether. Alicia Keys and Ariana Grande and all those artists, Usher he works with, it's another world, but I'm so happy for him. I'm so proud of him. He's doing very well. Yeah, I have done some work for him in the past. I helped him with his Trey Songz album that he did. I wrote some arrangement for that and helped him write a song, Unusual. I did with him. And the movie that he did, the Sparkle movie, I wrote the arrangements for him for the stuff he did on the Sparkle movie. So we've worked together a little bit,
That's great.
not a lot, but we've done a few things together. But yeah, he's on another, all the accomplishments that he's done in such a short amount of time, it's been pretty amazing.
Yeah. Is he based in the area or?
No, he's in LA.
Oh, he's in LA. Okay.
Yeah.
Have you done any work? I know Stanley has done some work for in the movie sound movie tracks. Have you done any work?
Stanley, no, I've never done a soundtrack. Stanley has done 68 to date.
Wow.
Yeah, most people don't know that he has composed 68 film scores to date. Yeah, it's been pretty amazing at it. I did at PIR, I would do like Channel 10, I wrote all of their new music at one time and that kind of thing. Radio commercials I would write music for, but I've never done a film score. Yeah.
I know he did one of the ones, the Wesley Snipes movie. He did the one where he's in the air on the plane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He also did What's Love Got to Do with It. He did that movie. He did the first Transporter movie. He's amazing.
Yeah. Have you two played together before? After you became.
We did. We've never played together except when we had our first little bands back in high school. I've sat in with him once on one of his shows, in Philly. He was doing a show at Varney Park in Philly on Germantown Avenue. I did one there.
Yeah.
And I sat in with him there, but no, we've never played, but we talk together all the time.
Okay. I noticed something that you posted the other day about space travel. Aerospace is something that's more than a passing fancy to you?
Well, yeah, because I've been an amateur stargazer since I was a kid. What happened, part of my life between North Philly and Lewis, Rabbits Ferry, Delaware, I grew up on a farm. Part of my childhood was spent on a farm in Rabbits Ferry, Delaware. And in the sky, there's no lights, in the skies at nighttime. And one night I saw a meteor shower that I've never seen since. And it's always stuck with me. And I've always wanted to know. I've never seen that many meteors at once. Let me put it that way. And I think I was like 9 or 10 years old at the time. And I've been interested in what's out there ever since. And every year, I have a list of meteor showers to go see, conjunctions to go see. I took my grandson a few years ago all the way down to Tennessee so we could see the full solar eclipse, So yeah, I'm pretty much into that. Actually, I have a new telescope being delivered. It's an Orion 10-inch, which is a big one, like that.
I don't think we mentioned, what is your son's name, or what is his?
Which what you talking about, the music business?
Yeah.
His name is Andrew Pop Wansel.
Okay. Speaking of music business, the business side of music, was that something that you came easily to? Was that a difficult part of the process of writing?
Just want to say one thing, and I want to leave it alone, okay? It haunts me to this day.
Okay. All right. So what about the future? Any projects? What kinds of things might you be working?
Yeah. I've been back on the road. I went through over a decade of some sickness, and the doctors have it kind of figured out. And last year, like right before the pandemic hit last year, February of last year, I did shows in London and Paris that got great reviews. I do a show where in the music that I'm a part of, I honor the great artists, friends that I was able to work with, and I had all these other shows lined up to do, and of course the pandemic kind of put an end to it. But now we're revving that back up. I just completed an album that I'm going to put out independently.
Okay.
And it's called The Story of the Flight Crew to Mars, and it's finished. And I'm going to send you a private SoundCloud link so you can listen to it.
Wonderful. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So you were well received over in Europe. Huh?
Sold out shows. They have invited me back again this year, but we'll have to wait and see. Numerous venues and festivals over there, like their Camp Soul over there, which is one of the big soul festivals in Europe. I'm supposed to headline on the 28th of August, but we'll see. Because the pandemic, has a few, curves to it,
Yeah.
This variant stuff is kind of like saying, hold up,
Yeah, I'm trying to make plans to get away myself, and I noticed that they said I'm trying to get to the Caribbean, and they were saying that they have some reservations.
The spring will answer a lot of questions, I believe, because irrespective of what's being told people to do to protect themselves during this pandemic, people are stepping outside of that by the millions. All over the world. They're going to the beaches, they're having parties, spring celebrations, and have kicked in already. And so we'll see what happens after the spring.
So this album, your CD that you're bringing out, how would you characterize that? What kind of?
Very different. Like I said, I've been an amateur stargazer all my life, just about, and it's a story about, it's a semi-musical. So each song has a audio scene before it that tells a story.
I see.
And it begins with the liftoff, and I'm not going to tell you how it ends.
And are there any vocals that you provide on it?
No, I don't sing on it, but I've had some wonderful, absolutely wonderful people help me as far as that's concerned. The last signed artist at Philadelphia International Records is a great vocalist named Damon Williams, and he travels in our show. We do the show together all over the country and the world, and he does vocals of stuff that I did, say like on Billy, and we do an honor to Gamble and Huff, we do a song for them. And then of course I was the A&R director for John and Gene's Ain't No Stopping Us Now. story behind that record, but we'll talk about it another time, you know. But I was proud to be the A&R director for that record during that record. And you know, then I do all the stuff that's he helps me there, you know, and he's singing on this album. Also, other great vocalists out of Philadelphia, Latrice Jones Epps is doing one of the songs. The wonderful vocalist Suzanne Burgess is doing a song, you know, and Rick Tate, the saxophonist, is doing a couple of songs, you know. Tisa is doing a song on the album, you know. So it's wonderful folks have really helped me put this album together.
Philly is just so rich.
Absolutely.
Talent, musical talent, all kinds of talent, but particularly musical talent. And I don't know, I feel part of what moved me to start doing this, and like I said, I wrote a book about a little over 10 years ago, from a fan's perspective on music, was because I don't think the greatness of Philadelphia music and its musicians and artists is portrayed the way it should be. You know, they just don't get enough credit and enough exposure, to me anyway, you know.
Right. I agree 1000%. And it's tougher now, you know, because a lot of Philadelphia musicians are still jazz and R&B oriented. And I think that the labels, except for the smooth jazz labels, kind of like view that as retro. You know what I'm saying? So it's hard for artists and vocalists and groups to get signed and get distributed out there, you know. A few of us make it, you know, and a few of us are trying to help bring R&B and soul and funk back, like Bruno Mars. Yeah, he gets played on all the pop stations and stuff like that, and so does Lizzo to a certain degree. But it would be great to see more artists, especially Philadelphia artists, who are just as talented and who have just as wonderful musician skills, you know, be able to do the same thing.
I've you know, I was thinking about like the singer-songwriting group of Kindred, and just how you know, marvelous they are. And as far as I don't know anybody who does better lyrics and melodies than they've put together in the last, you know, 20 years or whatever. But I know that they're heralded outside of Philly, but here I just think they're taken for granted. And like I said, so many other artists that it just amazes me.
Agreed.
I guess it is what it is, but we're going to keep working at it. Give us that the title again so we can look for it.
Not out yet. Hopefully it'll be out by the end of April. I wanted it to be out by the end of this month, but there's a lot of setting up I got to do. I learned great lessons from that album I put out 15 years ago on CD Baby, and I didn't promote it or market it or do anything. I just sit here and they stuck it out. That, don't get me wrong, it sells even to this day, but nobody knows about it. You know what I'm saying? So I'm doing my homework. Some folks are going to help me, including my son. And we're going to do an independent distribution, and hopefully it will be out by the end of next month. And once again, it's called The Story of the Flight Crew to Mars. I'll send you a link and you can listen to it. And please let me know what you think. I hope you find something on it that you like, you know.
I absolutely will. So look, thanks so much. You know, as I said at the beginning of this, people, this is one of the great music minds of Philadelphia. He's one of many, but it's just been an honor and a pleasure to have you this evening. And please keep on doing what you're doing, keep encouraging and you know, helping people to achieve what they want to achieve, because you're just one of many great artists that this city has produced. So thanks.
Well,
so
this city has produced wonderful artists. It's amazing just how much has come out of Philly that people don't really know. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just so proud to and honored to have been a part of so many of my friends, you know, that have passed on, you know, the work that I did with them, Teddy and Lou and Phyllis, you know. The, you know, I'm just been honored. And I appreciate you having me on your show.
Oh, look, the pleasure is mine, and it's been an honor. So take care. God bless you, and we'll look for that piece that's coming out soon.
Thank you.
All right, now take care.
All right, peace.